Just like my friend said, if the lion doesn't tell his own story, it is only the story of the hunter that will celebrate. By sharing his story, General Gowon has rendered yet another important service to Nigeria and to the historical records of Africa. I believe this is a debt I also owe Nigerians and humanity. Maybe someday it will be my turn to also launch my biography. As I conclude, let me congratulate the publishers, editors, researchers, family members, and all those whose efforts made this work possible. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, books preserve memory, but they also shape the future. I have no doubt that this autobiography will become an important resource for scholars, policymakers, military officers, students, and all Nigerians that are interested in understanding the complex society and how to navigate our country forward. On behalf of all of us here, because I'm the chairman, I congratulate His Excellency General Yakubu Gowon on this landmark achievement and pray that Almighty God continue to grant him strength, peace, and good health. It is now my singular honor and privilege to declare this ceremony open. I thank you all.
Your Excellency, sir, we thank you so much. Thank you very much indeed for that thought-provoking chairman's comment, which is clear to me is a pathway to us waiting to see the book by His Excellency President Goodluck Jonathan. And he is the one I know who often would say, I'd like to recognize my wife. It's such a beautiful thing to see. I thank her for coming. One would think they didn't leave the same house. It's beautiful to see you, ma'am, all the time. And he has said this book is a book that provokes the rest of us to write our books. Isn't it wonderful? I'd like to welcome His Excellency, the Governor of Plateau State, who has arrived here this morning. We welcome you. Thank you for coming. Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the former Chief of Defense Staff, General Martin Luther Agwai, is representing our esteemed Chief Presenter, the very distinguished General T.Y. Anjuma this morning. We welcome you, sir. It's good to see you. We have with us Dr. Bernard Doro, Honorable Minister, Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Pastor Dr. W.F. Kumuyi, General Superintendent of the Deeper Life Bible Church, is represented by Pastor Edison Daminabo, State Overseer. We welcome you. Sir Dr. Emeka Ofor is represented by Barrister Chijoke James, who is here with us. And of course, we also have with us a General and Ambassador, General Tukur Yusuf Buratai. He is here with us. We have the representative of former First Lady, Her Excellency Hajia Mariam Abacha, is represented by her son, Mohammed Abacha. We sincerely welcome you. And we are also very pleased to welcome the Managing Director of Zenith Bank, Dame Lady Adora, represented today by Executive Director Louis Odom, Honorable Bashir Abubakar, Honorable Chief Commissioner, Public Complaints Commission, and Deputy Secretary General, African Ombudsman. We welcome you all. We will try to keep the recognitions to a bare minimum for want of time, but I'd like us to take a moment to get a sneak preview, and this is not stealing the thunder of the book reviewer. Quote, "In the age in which we grew up, one was taught to be instinctively patriotic. We were raised to be good, to love our neighbors as ourselves, to pray for our traditional rulers, to be loyal to our political leaders, and since we were still a colony, to pray for the queen or king who was the head of the Commonwealth, unquote. There are many snippets from this book that should make you get a copy. I have buried myself. I have been under the blanket. I have read the pages. I have read the lines, but it's still undercover. And until General T.Y. Danjuma unveils it, we still haven't seen the book. The book is undercover, and the moment it is unveiled, then you can get a copy, but I am privileged, and so we're grateful for that moment. This is the time when we lighten up the room. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, everywhere we go as Nigerians, our dance count. Our boys and girls making music are burning the tracks across the world, in the United States, in the UK, in Canada, where our dances, whenever we put them on social media, become the trend. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a Nigerian dance is a gift. And because it's a gift, today we present it before this esteemed audience. NDA Abuja, very briefly, will do a very short dance to lighten the room, and we will continue in a short while. I see my brother, Minister of Defense, General Christopher Musa, is in the room. Welcome, it's good to see you. And of course, my brother-in-law, former governor of Bauchi State, Alhaji Muazu. I welcome you, good to see you.
Mungode, please, if you don't mind, would like to give them another round of applause. They have come from the home front of the convener of this program to come and show solidarity and love to their own. General Dr. Yakubu Gowon'S, they all came in from Pangshin and Plateau State, and I saw the governor almost dancing to that song as well with his feet. Thank you very much. Dame, Your Excellency Dame Pauline Talen, former Minister of Women Affairs, we welcome you. At this juncture, for brevity of time, Your Excellency, our distinguished special guest of honor, would like to invite someone who's been saddled to the responsibility of reading out the citation of the nonagenarian that we're here celebrating today. I'm talking about none other than the citation of our father, General Dr. Yakubu Gowon'S, GCFR. And to do this for us will be Dr. Adekombi. Please can we welcome him with a resounding applause as he makes his way to the podium. Please, as you come forward, with respect that you speak to it, and keep it as brief. And, well, for an elder statesman as General Gowon, do not edit it on the spot, or else you might miss some very, very fine content of what you're supposed to deliver. Please, you have your time starts now.
Standing on existing protocols. People speak of preaching to the converted. This exactly is my assignment as I present His Excellency General Dr. Yakubu Gowon GCFR, former Head of State, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In June 1975, Cambridge University described him as a soldier with unusual modesty. He was also described as a man of muscular Christianity. Those words were true then, when he received an honorary doctorate from the university. Today, the description remains just as fitting and made more so as he is the proud holder of an earned doctorate, a feat he achieved 42 years out of office. He let go of the gun in 1975, but the Bible remains his strong weapon. The fifth of 11 children of Pa Yohana and Mama Saraya Gowon, General Yakubu Gowon was born on Friday, October 19, 1934, in Garam, a village in the then Pangshin division of today's Kanke local government area of Plateau State. He's originally from Lo, where his father was one of the sons of the traditional rulers of the Angas people. His mother, on the other hand, hailed from Tuwan and was, like her husband, an early Christian convert. The Gowon family migrated from the Plateau to Zaria in 1936 on account of Pa Yohana's evangelical work with the Christian Missionary Society. General Gowon was educated at St. Bartholomew's School in Wusasa, Zaria, where he studied until December 1949 before he was admitted to Barewa College, Zaria in 1950. At the college, he established his all-round sports credentials by participating in and winning laurels in football, pole vault, boxing, and long-distance races. His leadership potentials manifested early too, as he was the school's assistant librarian, superintendent of the school's dispensary, and in his final year, the president of the prefects committee. Though he had hoped to be a teacher, fate steered him in a different direction that made it strange that the army was not his first love. His father was a soldier for Christ. His two older brothers, Ibrahim and Peter, saw action in World War II. As it turned out, his younger brothers, Moses and Isaiah, also served in the Nigerian Air Force and the Nigerian Army, respectively. His military career began with his enrollment in 1954 at the Regular Officers Special Training School in Teshie, Ghana, after which he undertook officer cadet training at the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst. He earned his commission as an officer on the 21st of December 1956, alongside 4 other brothers in arms, Arthur Unebe, Pat Awuna, Alex Madiebo, and Mike Okwechime. None of them forgot the immortal words of General Gerald Templar, commander of the British forces in Cyprus, who said to them, "Young men, as you are about to go into the real world and the challenge that you will face, all I can say is to wish you good luck and good hunting." Some of those young men found themselves on different sides of the Nigerian crisis when it eventually happened. Then Second Lieutenant General Yakubu Gowon, with service number NA-20, resumed at his first military duty post at 4th Battalion, Mokola, Ibadan, in July 1957. Between that year and 1966, he twice saw action in the Congo and held various senior positions, including Adjutant, 4th Queensland Nigerian Regiment, Staff Captain, Army Headquarters, Adjutant General of the Nigerian Army, and Chief of Army Staff. For him and Nigeria, 1966 was a defining year. While the country experienced its first military coup on the 15th of January 1966, he providentially survived the experience. When the country recorded its second military intervention, he again, providentially, emerged as the head of state at the youngest ever age of 31 in Nigeria. He was an outsider to both occurrences. In 9 consecutive years as head of state, the longest single stretch by any Nigerian leader, General Yakubu Gowon recorded several landmark achievements: the creation of Nigeria's 12-state structure, the prosecution of the 30-month civil war of unity that ended in no victor, no vanquished, and without any external borrowing, the introduction of the 3 Rs, that is reconciliation, rehabilitation, and reconstruction, to fast-track post-war national recovery and development, the completion of the National Stadium, the traffic change to right-hand drive, the change of the Nigerian currency from pounds to naira, the inauguration of the National Youth Service Corps, the hosting of the second All-African Games, the increase in the number of federal government colleges from 3 to 12, groundbreaking construction of the National Theatre, completion of the Eco Bridge in Lagos, promotion of technology transfer through a dedicated iron and steel development policy, completion of Volkswagen of Nigeria plant, Lagos, and Peugeot automobile plant in Kaduna, introduction of irrigation policy to boost agricultural productivity and food security. One of the founding fathers and pioneer chairman of the Economic Community of West African states. He is a prime mover of the conceptualization of Abuja as Nigeria's new federal capital territory, a fact that was largely unacknowledged until the coming of General Ibrahim Babangida as military president. Little wonder President Bola Ahmed Tinubu described General Yakubu Gowon as the father of national infrastructure and unity in his 90th birthday message to the elder statesman. For 57 years, General Yakubu Gowon has been married to Her Excellency Mrs. Victoria Gowon, CFR, a true officer's wife, and the woman he calls Vic, but always describes as my dear wife in written documents, in the best tradition of respect for wives in the military. A self-effacing man, General Gowon has a very rich sense of humor, born out of an officer's pragmatic approach to life. He believes that no soldier dies except he has his name on a bullet. He says God adds 10 more years to his life each time rumors spread that he had died. The last time the rumors gained ground, I called him. The first thing he said to me was, Dotun, do you want to speak with the dead man too? In 1975, General Gowon enrolled for undergraduate studies at the University of Warwick and left the institution in 1984 with a PhD in political science. In effect, he acquired practical experience leading Nigeria for 9 years, and then he studied the theory of leadership for another 9 years. 51 years after leaving office, General Yakubu Gowon continues to carry Nigeria in prayers through Nigeria Prays, a non-denominational intercessory group of which he is the convener. His collaboration through the Yakubu Gowon Center with former US President Jimmy Carter and the Federal Ministry of Health led to Nigeria being designated guinea worm-free by the World Health Organization in 2013. He is the National Goodwill Ambassador for the control of viral hepatitis in Nigeria. He has served variously as head of ECOWAS Observer Mission at Ghana's presidential election, the Carter Center's Observer Mission in Guinea's general election, the Commonwealth Observer Mission in Zambia's tripartite elections, the Carter Center's Observer Mission in Liberia, and the African Union's Observer Mission during the Lesotho parliamentary elections. He's a member of the African Forum, an informal network of former African heads of state and governments designed to support the implementation of the broad objectives of the African Union. Though a soldier, his credentials for the promotion of democracy have never been in doubt. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I present General Dr. Yakubu Gowon, the statesman that the Guardian newspaper proudly described as the last man standing. Thank you very much.
We thank you so very much indeed. What an incredible reading that is, that has been done by a man who read it with so much passion behind his voice. We thank you so very much, Mr. Dotun Adekombi. What we picked out was that His Excellency General Gowon is a man of muscular Christianity. My first time of picking up words that are so powerful and so well read. Not only is he a man of muscular Christianity, the gentleman also reeled out his achievements: 12-state structure, civil war of unity, no victor, no vanquished, and also changing the currency from pounds to naira, the All Africa Games, and described by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the father of national infrastructure and unity. If your hands are not tired, let's do one more round of applause for him. Indeed, it's a beautiful day to be born. On a day when we are going to read the depths and crevices of the nation Nigeria through the eyes of a man who should know. I'd like to quickly inform us that the Enugu State Governor is represented today by Dr. Prince Lawrence Eze, Commissioner of Information, Science and Technology. And we have the Chief of Defense Staff, General O.O. Oluyede, is represented by the Chief of Defense Intelligence, Lieutenant General Parker Udianye. We also have with us in our midst today, Reverend Dr. Moses Aronshiola, National Director, Nigeria Praise, and Reverend Dr. Babajide Olowodola. We have all of them here with us today. We have Professor Jerry Gana, my former minister, is here. General Ike Nwachukwu, whose wife was my teacher, General Alani Akinriade. We welcome you and we thank you for being here. Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, the goodwill messages which are not on your program will be coming up after the unveiling, and we're taking only 3, and everyone who is delivering a goodwill message today will keep it at 2 minutes for want of time. His Excellency, the representative of the President, has other state matters, but he considered this numero uno for him to be here this morning. We thank you, sir, as always. Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have Eldai Honde in the room, who was Chief Press Secretary to His Excellency General Gowon and has written the foreword for this book. Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we power through very quickly. I bring you a man who was former chair of Veritas University, and he's also chairman, chancellor now, Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu University in Anambra State. He's author, man of the cloth, national conscience, columnist who is trenchant and cerebral. A man today who will be doing justice to the book review. Help me welcome the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, a man very well known to all of us, my Lord Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, PhD.
Thank you, Gina. You know, equality means that all of us coming here have to climb these 3 steps. But justice means that everybody's be accorded a place of speech that is convenient for him. So when you think about President Jonathan being on that place, and the vice president is also going to be on that place. In justice, I think that's where I should be, so you can see me well. When I saw these Ngaz dancers, I was wondering whether they are supporters of Chelsea, but I soon realized that they weren't. Congratulations, because of course, naturally, I'm a national supporter. So, and the Emir of Kano himself was full of joy. So if you see the Sultan not looking so happy, it's because Manchester United is not doing so well. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me, for obvious reasons, as they say, stand on existing protocols. This is not an honor I take for granted to have been asked by General Gowon and his wife to review this book. I feel quite honored. And when you think about the man who has come through so much pain and suffering, bitterness, anger, a man who has come through so much in his life, humiliation in all forms, you would imagine that if he attempts to put anything down in writing, a man who has been subjected to treachery, backstabbing, intrigues, and so on and so forth, you will expect that if he has an opportunity, he will take his pound of flesh, and that whatever he writes will be full of either bitterness, anger, and the deception and the betrayal. But from the very beginning of the book, the author says, I want, and I quote, I want to emphasize that I'm telling my story without access to my crucial personal records. Since many important documents taken from my desk after my removal in July 1975 were discarded by those who succeeded me. Other documents that survived, which he kept, were destroyed in 2 fire incidents, one in Bakori and the other one in Kaduna. And this is in Romans, page 21. It's important, therefore, to underscore the fact that whatever you read in the book is the result of what the author was able to recall. And you will find in the book evidence of excellent memory and details of things. The book itself is 36 chapters. And when I received it, the copy I got is 850 pages. When I spoke to the publisher, he told me there were still more pages coming. So my quotation, the pagination will probably not reflect in the final copy that you might have to read. The sheer size of the book suggests, and the kind of issues that are covered suggest that the review also should be something slightly different. And therefore, I have decided to divide the review into 5 different sections. The first section I titled Gowon and the 4 coups. The second section I titled Gowon, Times of Trials and Tribulation. The third section I called Gowon, Truth and Redemption. And the fourth, Victoria Gowon, Wife, Shield, Diplomat, and Chief Security Officer. And the final, section 5, I said, Nigeria, who next and what next? The author opens the book by saying, and I quote, I have tried to tell my story as truthfully as I know how, and see it without any intention of claiming the glory for every achievement or heaping blames on other people or perceived failures. I made a conscious decision not to open new wounds, but to clarify my thinking on policies and plans at the period too often narrated by others. End of quote. Notwithstanding this, most readers of the book might be quick to say that perhaps these wounds that the author was reluctant in opening would have better been opened, and perhaps by now, greater healing would have probably happened. But notwithstanding, the book itself covers from the life of the writer right through to a lot of the epochal events in his active life and beyond. For example, those of us who probably remember little things remember the nuanced references that Ojukwu tended to make, that he was senior to General Gowon. But the record tells us that while the writer himself, General Gowon, his military number was N20, Ojukwu's military number was N29. But then he goes on to make the point that while he started his cadet training in 1954, he was commissioned in 1956. The author goes on to state that Ojukwu was commissioned in 1958, but he and others were later given 3 years seniority because of their university degrees. All that is found on page 245. On April 1st, 1963, both of them received their first senior postings, whereas C. Gowon was appointed Adjutant General, Ojukwu was appointed Quartermaster General. And according to his account, after the announcement of their promotions, Ojukwu suggested that they should change positions. But for obvious reasons, it wasn't within the power. A reference has already been made about the coups. I refer to them as 4 coups, in the sense that he was affected tangentially by the 4th coup. But first, in the account and in popular narrative, we talk about the 1966 coup as the Igbo coup. We talk about the later coup as the revenge coup. Of course, further reflections and further reading and further interrogation of the distorted history of what really happened reveals more nuances. And I think that the most important thing is that scholars must also come to terms with the fact that this story has still only just started, and it's an ongoing story. But again, at the end, in explaining these coups, we are not looking for who is right or who is wrong. But even in all narrations, including the narration of the author, there are still a lot of questions left unanswered, in the sense that, like the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, titled, he referred to it as the known unknowns. But again, this is because scholarship has to continue. One of the most important things leading before the Civil War, and I thought it was from the general himself that I heard, I don't think that this is something that many Nigerians know, that actually until Aburi and after, what had been declared was police action, with the hope that somehow things would be resolved. But this famous speech that was delivered by the author on July 31st, 1966, his first speech, a very controversial speech that many people remember. One of the things that many people remember, and I don't know who wrote that speech, but whoever wrote that speech created more problems than he answered. Because, and I quote, because this proved to be the most controversial part of that speech. He says, in the course of the speech, as head of state, he said, suffice it to say that putting all considerations to test, political, economic, as well as social, the base for unity is not there, or is so badly rocked, not only once, but several times. I therefore feel that we should review the issue of our national standing and see if we can stop the country from drifting away into destruction. End of quote. That is on page 218. What is interesting about this speech is that subsequently, when Aburi happens, and Aburi is pretty well discussed, but it remains a sore point in the sense that I think the narrative is still not concluded. But in my view, researchers, members of the diplomatic community, students should go back and gather some of the evidence. Because it seems that one of the problems of Aburi was that both men went with different intentions. Ojukwu had read the fact that, and for him, the author says on page 240, the idea of Aburi was to have an exploratory event meant to break the ice, remove the veil of suspicion, and engender trust among the key actors. A sort of gentleman's agreement. This is what General Gowon, as head of state, went to Aburi hoping for. But Ojukwu had a completely different text, because Ojukwu says, if you read, because I'm involved, a few other things that suggest that, as far as Ojukwu was concerned, Aburi was one to try and answer the question of how did Ironsi die and who killed Ironsi. But even more importantly was to address the issue that he was hoping that Aburi will validate the fact that there was need to go back to where we were before the military struck, namely a loose federation. Now you can read the story, but I think that it's a story of moving parts. But again, I think it's important that from the point of view of history and so on, the author deals with those issues from his own point of view. The first chapter of the book, ironically, doesn't start necessarily with the background stories of the beginning. It starts with a very interesting incident. That is what happened in 1975. And the story is very remarkable because when you talk about General Gowon being a muscular Christian, whoever framed that concept must be a British man, but if you want to test what it really means to be a muscular Christian, Gowon's reaction, I'm sorry, sir, I have to call you by that name because I'm talking about you as an author, not as head of state now. If you read the text, you can now see, that there is something completely different. First of all, there are rumors that there is a coup. And it is very interesting for us to know that marabouts, seers, prophets have always been in the seat of government, not the only villa they enter, they've always been there. Because these prophets were already telling General Gowon very early from Mali, from Senegal, they were already naming people who were plotting coup. And then, naturally, the head of state tells his security chief, who is supposed to be an IG now, and that's MD Yusuf. He says, you sniff around and find out what is happening. MD Yusuf, the ever fantastic and perhaps one of the greatest Nigerians, and he was a man I loved very much because he had an incredible passion for this country, but an incredible sense of, I happen to have enjoyed a bit of his friendship. But he makes his investigation, comes back to the head of state, and then he says to the head of state, Ya Ramune, President Jonathan, I think you speak a bit of Hausa, isn't it? Ya Ramune means it is our boys. It is our boys. And now the interesting thing with Ya Ramu is that remember that the second coup was staged by Yarang Arewa in order to revenge what had happened. Now, within the same womb that had produced the revenge coup, Yaram were now turning against themselves. Let me put it that way. So the head of state is told, this coup is being organized by our boys. And the title of that chapter is, Our Boys Are Up to Something. Now, even me as a lay person, the things I heard and the things I know about the rumor, say they hear say you are part of a coup, even sniffing around. Now, the head of state is being told even the names of those who are involved in this coup. And then he says simply, if you boys want to take over, you can try. If you succeed, you can call this your revolution and do whatever you want. Now, which kind of head of state? They say some dogs are sniffing around your throne, and then you tell them, carry on if you... Now, that sense of resignation also speaks to, one, the inevitability of certain realities if your faith in God is strong, which is that what will happen will happen. But again, I think it's founded on the author's firm conviction, which will later be resonated by President Jonathan about how much blood do you require to protect your throne. Because in all of this, he is told even the people, he's told their names. And then before he gets ready to leave for Kampala, he's determined to go to Kampala. He could have stayed back, because how can you leave your back empty and decide to go to Kampala? But the author says he had already made up his mind to go to Kampala precisely because he wanted to convince other African countries to take very seriously the issue of supporting Angola. And he was ready to make that sacrifice. But then the director of military intelligence then, who was Colonel Abdullahi Mohammed, fantastic gentleman. But he was to accompany the head of state to Kampala. And yet, as they are getting ready to go to Kampala, Colonel Mohammed comes and then he tells the head of state, Oga, let me stay, because he's already part of the coup plotters. But he says to the head of state, let me stay back, and I keep sniffing around. Whatever stories I get, I will hand them over to the Chief of Staff, Supreme Headquarters, Vice Admiral Joseph Akinwale Way. And you might say that the head of state almost naively accepted. He said, okay, stay back. And then the funniest of them all was just Joe Garba, Colonel Joseph Garba, who is in charge of Brigade of Guards, supposed to be in charge of defending the president. Now, Joe Garba was supposed to accompany him to the airport. Instead of accompanying him to the airport, he calls the head of state by phone and said, Oga, Brigadier Mobolaji Johnson, governor of Lagos State, has an event. He has asked me to go and represent him. And he says, go and represent him. How can you refuse to accompany head of state because a junior officer like a brigadier has asked you to stay back? When you talk of muscular Christianity, those of you who are Christians will understand, should Jesus have gone to the cross, there are a lot of things he could have done differently. But when you place the human being at the center of everything, then you make decisions that others might consider rational or irrational. And so, he says at the end of the day, this is, as he himself went off to Kampala, despite the threat, he said, I told him that he was excused, that is Joe Garba, but reminded him that further to our discussion on security, he should simply hand over in the event of a coup, as I did not want him or any soldier to be killed. Despite the fact that his wife had sniffed something around and was making the case. But what do women know? On the 25th of July, his wife decided, look, I'm taking the children for a holiday. And the author says, no, stay back. Let me go to Kampala and come back. She said, no, we will go. She leaves on the 25th. The coup takes place on the 29th. The rest is history. Now, what is very interesting, close your eyes and ask yourself, all of us who are here, we left either notes on our table, maybe kept our underwear or the things we wanted to wear somewhere, and imagine that you are here, and suddenly you can't go back home again. Because when the head of state left for Kampala, just like everything, there was a lot of unfinished business. And suddenly you are stranded in the middle of nowhere. You told a coup has taken place, you can't go back home. Now, what I've done here is I've just identified a few things defying time. So I'm not tied to time, but I just accumulated some of the things that I think should occupy our attention. Namely, in chapters 28 to 32, this dramatic phase and traumatic phase of the Gowon family life is highlighted. First, he arrives Kampala as head of state and chairman of ECOWAS. After the coup, he has become a refugee. And then what is very interesting is that, hear this, and hear very well. Head of state of the richest country in Africa, suddenly he starts feeling his pocket, and then there is no money. You will find it in the book. There isn't much money. And then the people that accompanied him, ordinary junior officers that accompanied, began to bring out part of their ESTA code to contribute. Then people from the Nigerian High Commission in Kampala, out of sympathy, gathered head of state. They did offertory collection to help their head of state. Everything put together in that room, everything put together. Collection from Nigerian High Commission, collection from the people who accompanied him, then the one that he himself had, everything came to 3,000 pounds. That was what he had. Either to live in Uganda. Then Idi Amin said, Oga, I don't accept this nonsense. I'm going to send Ugandan troops to go and claim your throne for you. The general says no. And right now, he has no place to go to. Finally, he says, okay, we'll go to Togo. Yadema accepts. Idi Amin is very generous. Idi Amin dashed him $10,000. And that was what increased his confidence to come to Togo. But then he realizes that if he stays in Togo, they must still continue to say, this is what is happening. You know, he's planning to come back to Nigeria. Now, his name is wiped out the records of army records. There's even the streets that were named after him, like Broad Street in Lagos. The military quickly cleaned the names. His two brothers, Captain Moses and Isaiah, this is through time now. I'm crossing over to the Dimka coup, are now detained. His daughter's grave is desecrated in Wusasa. Government refused to sell even the only one house that he has on 11 Okotiebo in Ikoyi, refused to sell it to him. And after 19 years of military service, from the time he joined the army up till the day he was removed from the army, they now put all his money together, everything that he's entitled to. And the total came to 34,304 naira. You heard me right, 34,304 naira. That is what General Yakubu Gowon, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who had superintended a civil war, who had overseen the sale of tanks and so on, who just with one tip alone, just one small tip, but all he had to call by his name, after 19 years of military service, 34,304. And out of this, only 20,000 was remitted into his bank account. He had only one bank account. His pension of 7,000 pounds was stopped after the 1976 coup. His total savings from that time was 41,000 naira. Total gratuity received was 34,000 naira, with which he used to build. If you have been to his Sultan Bello house in Kaduna, you know the place. So now, Victoria and the children, I'm sorry, ma, please, just Her Excellency is in London with the children. But by the way, now that their husband, 2 days after their husband is no longer head of state, they checked into a hotel. Of course, they discovered they can no longer stay in the hotel. So literally, from first lady to being homeless, with children that you have to bring up. It takes one gentleman called Emmanuel Oti from Arochukwu, who offered the Gowon family a house that he himself had tried to fix and wanted to move into. Now, are you from Arochukwu? Why are you clapping? And then, in the course of their being in London, when you read the book, you will find, first of all, one day somebody came. He had spoken to his friend Ahijo. And Ahijo sent somebody, but the ambassador came to the Gowon house. And then he brought a package and handed over. And General Gowon holds the package. And it's a bit heavy. How much is it? $50,000. The highest amount of money that came into the hands of the family. Now, remember that those who took over had accused him of having properties and bank accounts all over the world. I remember when you celebrated your 70th birthday, sir. I wrote to General Buhari, many generals, Nelson Mandela, Jimmy Carter. We tried to contribute. She was the coup plotter. I was just conscripted on your 70th birthday. But one thing that Buhari said in his letter to you, and told me, General Buhari said to me, he said, look, what shocked me was when we were called to go and become, is it ADC, to the head of state, he was sitting on a chair. So you go and salute, and then the head of state would look at you and then interview you or whatever. He said, when I saluted, the head of state didn't look at me, just said, fall out. And I fell out. And he said to me, President Buhari was very humorous. He said, look, as thin as I am now, can you imagine what I was at that time? Maybe he didn't take me because he was afraid that if they fire bullet, I was too thin to protect the village. But President Buhari said that what shocked him was General Gowon came to him and said he couldn't pay his children's school fees. And you ask yourself, all the people he governed in Nigeria, where were they? They were all going to London, going and coming. Now, he is finally enrolled as a student in Warwick University, And then, of course, all that Nigerians remember about being in Warwick was that he disgraced the nation. This is a nation that has not paid him his money. But he disgraced the nation by being seen with a tray in the cafeteria of Warwick University. Now, we can go on and on, but I think the next point that I think is very important, because all of that is pretty well documented, because at this point now, General Gowon is almost like a scene out of the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, there's a price placed on his head. Anybody who can find him and bring him to Nigeria. Now, the story goes on and on, because the new head of state then, General Obasanjo, delivers a speech in which he said, and I quote, "We have made it clear that any country that harbors Yakubu Gowon is committing an unfriendly act towards the government and people of Nigeria. In the meantime, the Supreme Military Council has decided to dismiss Yakubu Gowon from the Nigerian army. He will from now be treated as a wanted person to face allegations against him anytime he sets foot on Nigerian soil." Page 641. Now, there is something, that story goes on. I'm sure many of you know the rest of the story, but let me very quickly move to the third point, which is General Gowon, truth and redemption. Now, of course, finally, things happen, and many of us know the story. But there is, those of you who are Christians, Psalm 91, which is one of my favorite psalms. He said, look, 1,000 arrows may fall on your side, 10,000 will fall by your side, but it will never touch you, because his buckler is your shield. And I think that's what we can say. Because amidst all of this, General Gowon had an opportunity. And like General Buhari said to me, this is a president in a war. We are in a war where anybody, he can make anybody a millionaire and a billionaire. How could he now come back and say he couldn't pay his children's school fees? Mobolaji Johnson, the governor of Lagos State, decided that even when he was head of state, Oga will give you a plot of land. The head of state said, I don't want plot of land. I'm head of state. I'm serving Nigeria. He says, okay, let us put the name of your wife. He said, no, don't put the name of your wife. After Mobolaji Johnson gets tired, he finally allocates a plot of land. How much is 2.7 acres of land? That's what was allocated to him as head of. He goes and sees 2.7 acres, that is too much. He said, no, I will need smaller land, so I can just do story building now. 2.7 is too much. Cut it down. Then, of course, after that, the coup happens. Commodore Adekunle Lawal, who succeeds Mobolaji Johnson, revokes the plot, allocates to another person, still using Gowon. You locate to another person, still using the name of Gowon. You can read that story on page 627. Now, he comes to Abuja, and there's a beautiful, read the account, because many of us, the problem with the history is that it's so distorted. Because what we know about Abuja is a fraction of the story. When you read the book, you will see what happened and how this story came about. The endless trips, helicopter trips, that they had General Gowon then and others made around this country to find a capital. Yet, in this same capital that he gave birth to, he didn't have a plot of land. And when he came back, it was just out of pity, let me put it that way, that General Babangida, General Gordon Nasco, agreed. Finally, they named one crescent after him. And after the crescent, they now gave him a plot of land. His first plot of land, literally in Abuja. He mobilizes resources to try and start building, takes people to the building site. He begins to build, then El Rufai becomes El Rufai, who was Minister of FCT, revoked the land. Yes, and he required the intervention of General Tiwa Danjuma, others, to get the plot of land back. Now, there are other issues, as I said, regarding relationship. But what I found very interesting, I saw the British High Commissioner here, I don't know where he has gone. But one interesting thing was what happened when this debate was going on about bring Gowon back, we want to try him. It seemed that among them as soldiers, it seems that Obasanjo still was not convinced that Gowon should be brought back. But you have to say something to be publicly heard. So there is a dramatic story which is told by Alison Ayida in response to the publication of Not My Will by President Obasanjo. And one of the things he said was that he said that if, for the High Commissioner, he said his argument was that we want Gowon to be brought back, but we don't want him to be brought back. So how do we do it? Alison Ayida said that, he said, if, however, this is what Alison Ayida said, if, however, this is what Gowon, General Obasanjo said, if, however, the message leaks out, the head of state will deny and castigate you publicly. Then Ayida says, I accepted my assignment, knowing fully well that I will be sacrificed if the assignment failed. Page 646. The point I'm making is, between General Gowon and Obasanjo, on page 339 of the book, please wait, sit down there. I didn't come here. This book is 900 pages. Now, on page 339, the author has said about Obasanjo, he said, I became his informal guardian angel, and for security reasons trusted him more than any other soldier. Now that you're giving me paper, let me go to Victoria Gowon, mother, the shield, the diplomat, who wore the trousers in the house. That's the title. In Sirach chapter 26, verse 1, it says, happy is the husband of a good wife. The number of his days will be doubled. I've tried to check the Bible to see, is there any place, happy is the wife of a good husband? I can't find it in the Bible. But it just says happy, and this woman is a quintessential vindication of that statement. Because on page 16 of the book, the author had said, Victoria had become attuned to military life and traditions, and her antennae easily pick signals that I sometimes wave aside as basic intuitions. End of quote. Now, amidst these periods of crisis, how was this woman able to look after children? Remember that her husband is a refugee. Okay? He cannot find a job in Nigeria, in London. He cannot open a bank account. And he himself said in the book that he became what he called a kept man on page 616. The man that is kept by a woman, because she's the one looking after everything in the house. She begins to make bed sheets. She begins to make pillows for sale and so on in order to be able to survive. And one very interesting isolated thing in the book is that whether the Nigerian Commission, they sent somebody to come and serve as their steward, to be able to clean their house, watch for them and so on. It turned out that this man who was working with them, Malam Barrow, was actually a paid intelligence man from the Nigerian embassy who was working in their house, hoping that they will find incriminating evidence. Of course, there ought to be, for a man that has been stripped of everything, and of course, a man that cannot find a job, and a woman that is struggling, there's supposed to be anger, frustration, fighting, backbite, all kinds of things. At the end of the day, the poor man doesn't have anything to report back. Now, one thing happened, which I think is important for the book. It was the general decided to join politics, because many of you remember under option A1 and A4, under option A4. Now he contested this election, but the wife doesn't agree, and this woman that you see, ma. She looks very innocent, but she has a heart of steel. Let me tell you, imagine this old man is still very handsome. Can you imagine what he was like at the age of 31, 32? Every girl looking at him has to look at him twice, including married women. And then suddenly he now they told him about this young girl, he went to her. The idea that the head of state wants to marry you. Then he goes and tells somebody, they managed to tell her that this man is interested. Finally, he went to see her. Young girl of just 20-something. He went to see her. Then he said, I love you. Then, instead of saying, what kind of rubbish is that? She looks at him and says, you love me? Write it down. And you can see on page 347, she says to him, write it down. And can you imagine the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Nigeria, the head of state surrounded by soldiers, standing before a 20-something-year-old girl, is shaking his hand, trying to write a love letter. Say, do you love me? And he's not even sure of the answer he will get. But that, it's a measure of the kind of person that General Gowon, and I think in fairness to him, he gives her a lot of credit, in the book. Let me end because it is... That attempted election exposed something. Because if you are talking about we Northerners, we are supposed to be one. We are supposed to be united because we are Northerners. There couldn't be a better definition of that North. And yet, when Alhaji Dankabo went and persuaded him to run, the wife said no. Moses is a Hyundai, again with an antenna. Moses said, it's a Hyundai. He said, don't go for this thing, no, because Babangida wants to extend his territory, just wants to get you out of the way. He said, no, let me go and try. But it's not the trying that is the issue. It is the reaction of the local community when they saw a reaction towards General Gowon. And he quotes, and I quote page 707, where he says, Christians and Muslims were threatened with fate worse than death if they voted for a Christian candidate. Houses will be burnt. Page 707. I want to end by asking a question, some of the things have been said. Again, in the preface, the author says, history has been kind to me, and I bear no grudge against anyone. If this book achieves anything, let it be to show that public service is never a call to vainglory, but an aspiration to guardianship by those who lead with conscience and conviction. That is what muscular Christians do. And so, as I said, I feel sentimental about Wusasa, because in this hall, Tiwa Danjuma is connected with Wusasa. General IBM Haruna is a Wusasa boy. And Wusasa is an important place. Unfortunately, its history is vanishing. Because in 1924, Kaka Audu became the first woman to write Cambridge examination in northern Nigeria. The first woman. That time, Sardana was only 12 years old. Michael Angulu was the first registrar of JAM, R.A.B. Diko, in 1938. He became a medical doctor, the first in northern Nigeria. Rhoda Mohammed was the first female ambassador in Nigeria. Joe Garba was the first, John Garba was the first African to be appointed to the World Bank, and so on and so forth. This is the place where General comes from. So, I want to say, by way of conclusion again, that this book, General, I want to thank you. We have read histories about the war. We have read about Obasanjo. We have read Ojukwu. We have read Shagari. We have read Babangida. We have read General Danjuma. We've partially read President Jonathan. I'm happy he accepts that. Now we are reading General Gowon. Next month, 24th of June, we are going to be reading General Abdul Salam by the grace of God. So I end as I started by saying, no autobiography summarizes history in totality. Nobody tells all the truth, because a point of view is a point from a view. The author has written things as he saw them, and if you respond negatively to autobiography, the answer is go and write your own. So, all we can take away from this book is a renewal of our commitment, our faith, our dedication to the fact that God, the supreme creator of heaven and earth, is not done with our country. He will still do great things for us. All of us are called upon to become agents of reconciliation, because the book ends with the final sentence, to keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done. And thank you very much.
Your Excellency, representative of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the very distinguished Senator Kashim Shettima, Your Excellency, the chair of this occasion, our chief celebrant, our chief presenter, our royal fathers, former heads of state here present, governors, ministers, I'd like to salute and greet and welcome a man who has had to battle with weather and aviation. Please help me greet and welcome the very distinguished Senator Akume, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, who has battled storms, weather, clouds, change of flight to make it into this room. We welcome you, sir. We thank you for coming. Esteemed Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Catholic and only recently sat on the board of Veritas University, so Bishop Kukah is not only a bishop in my church, well respected, but he's also chairman of a board I served. And to bring his review to a stop required some courage. So it took me a lot of courage to go forward and behave like a trained soldier to plead with him. Because also, Bishop Kukah is a very cerebral man. And when he reviews a book, you give him time to do what he has to do. But he brought it to a close, 2 pages short, and I'm sure that will be published in the papers for all of us to see. I doubt that there would have been a better reviewer of this book. My Lord Bishop of Sokoto State, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, book reviewer gave us the title, Our Boys Are Up to Something, 1 chapter. Gowon and his Gangster Cabinet, another chapter. When Dr. Clement Isong gave me gray hairs, another chapter. The book has been well reviewed. Everybody must get a copy. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I call on Andy to quickly come and do the honors. I see my auntie, distinguished Senator Ireti Kingebe, is here in the room. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we're also trying to speed up because of the exigencies of the office of our distinguished special guest of honor. And as a result of that, we'd like to plead, much as we want to make money from this business, Your Excellency, we'll try to recognize our co-launchers very briefly. Just permit 1 second to be able to run through that. Professor Suleiman Bogoro, former TED Fund Executive Secretary, is here. Pastor and Pastor Mrs. Paula Defarasi, founder House on the Rock, is also here with us. We'd like to also appreciate you and also to welcome Pastor Mesoma Mesoto Dixon. He is the chairman of the Mesoto Group of Companies. He's one of our co-launchers at this occasion. We'd like to welcome you. Abike Dabiri, Honorable Abike Dabiri Erewa, would like to welcome you. Pastor Jide Akinode, representative of General Overseer Redeemed Christian Church of God. Pastor Enoch Adeboye, we welcome you. Chief Dr. Okafor OFR is a co-launcher of his book. We'd like to welcome you. Also want to recognize the presence of Honorable Justice B.A. Adejumo, OFR Administrator, National Judicial Institute, represented here by the Secretary. We'd like to welcome you. I also want to welcome very profoundly Chairman Access Bank Holdings, Aiboje. Aig Imokwede is represented here by his director, Abuja Business School. We'd like to welcome you. And I think we're inching very close to the point. All right, so another co-launcher, Alhaji Ilyasu Ayaka, former Director, Public Affairs, to the former Head of State, Professor Major General Ibrahim Shoaibu, former Director General, NYSC. We welcome you. And very lastly, we'd like to recognize Senator Ireti Kingebe, Chairman, Senate Committee on Women Affairs, and is also here representing the President of the Senate and Chairman of the National Assembly, Senator Dr. Godswill Obot Akpabio. We thank you very much for coming. Moving on with the speed that this event deserves, Your Excellency, I would like to appreciate you for your time. Please put your hands together to appreciate the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for his time. We appreciate your time indeed. And of course, just as you know, this event it transcends literature. It is about the truth as he knows it. It is about the reflection. It is about leadership, and above all, it is about Nigeria. And so to do us the honor of presenting this book for the very first time publicly to the Nigerian public and those watching from, because I'm being told that we have been joined virtually from great fans and mentees of General Dr. Yakubu Gowon'S from different parts of the world. So we'd like to appreciate all of them joining us virtually. But it is time for the book presentation proper. And the chief presenter is the former Chief of Army Staff, former Chief of Defense Staff, and former Minister of Defense, General T.Y. Danjuma GCON, FSS, PSC, but today represented by another great general, General Martin Luther Agwai, CFR, the former Chief of Defense Staff of Nigeria. As he comes forward, we'll speak to this very briefly, and then, of course, we'll move on from here. Please, for those of you who are here willing to be able to contribute to this book, please, we have pledge slips that the ushers will go around and hand over to you. For now, let's listen to the chief presenter. Please, another round of applause for him.
Your Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief, represented by the Vice President, the author of the book, I stand on the existing protocol. It's a great pleasure for me to stand before you today to represent, at one time when I had the same singular honor to represent General T.Y. Danjuma at the launching of President Babangida's autobiography. I said then that General Babangida was my professional father because he was an instructor when I was a cadet in NDA. At that time, I considered General T.Y. Danjuma as my grandfather because at that time, when I was commissioned in 1972, he was my first GOC, and later on became the Chief of Army Staff. So today I don't know what to say. I have a father, a grandfather, so today is great grandfather, I think. Because he was the head of state and commander-in-chief when I was commissioned as second lieutenant in 1972. And it's great for me to remember I had a privilege, a very rare privilege, to meet with General Gowon. I will never forget that day in Addis Ababa. He was coming from Burundi, and I was coming from Darfur, and it was just after the election that brought President Buhari into power. We had dinner together, and we spoke on so many things. But one thing I had the courage, I have to summon the courage to tell the then former head of state is, please, when are we going to read your book? Please write. I'm so glad that he has done that, and I'm even privileged to have a role to say on that day. Thank you very much, sir, for writing. Now, let me go straight to the comment I was given by the person I'm representing. People say soldier of the soldiers. That is General T.Y. Danjuma, and I quote what he has given me. I am delighted to pay this tribute to Nigeria's foremost living statesman, former head of state, wartime commander-in-chief, my military boss, and international icon, His Excellency, General Dr. Yakubu Gowon, GCFR, on this momentous occasion of the public presentation of his autobiography today, Tuesday, 19th May 2026. General Gowon is not only a household name in Nigeria, but also a global acknowledged leader with impeccable record and outstanding credentials in leadership, nation building, military strategy, peace building, and conflict resolution, among many other noble endeavors. As Nigerian head of state during one of the most turbulent periods in our nation's history, General Gowon exhibited immense courage and sterling qualities in steering our beloved country from the brink of disintegration to a united, stable, and strong nation. His well-recorded slogan of "No victor, no vanquish" after the Civil War set the tune for a highly effective post-war policies of reconciliation, reconstruction, and rehabilitation, which helped to speedily heal the scars of the war and put Nigeria on the path of sustainable recovery. He will ever be remembered as a leader whose love for his country and fellow citizens was unwavering even in the most trying time. On a personal note, I have been fortunate to know General Gowon from my teenage years in Wusasa, Zaria. More than 7 decades ago, where our paths first crossed, making the beginning of what has become a lifetime relationship and friendship between us. As a student in St. Bartholomew Primary School, Wusasa, I was always excited to see him in Government College, later Barewa College, Zaria uniform, whenever he visited his parents in Wusasa. I was then looking forward to attending Government College, Zaria, like him, for my post-primary education. Unfortunately, I was admitted only at Katsina Allah Middle School instead of Zaria. After my secondary school education, I gained admission into Nigerian College of Arts, Science and Technology, Zaria, where I saw some of my fellow students wearing military uniform, and I was told that they belonged to the College Cadet Corps. I was fascinated by the jungle hat, which ignited my interest in Army uniform. I consequently decided to join the College Cadet Corps, where the foundation for my military career was laid. During my service years, General Gowon became a mentor, a role model, a leader, and a boss whose impact on my career was very profound, and has continually to shape my military values. Professionally, some believed and even worldviews, even as at today, my admiration for General Gowon goes beyond our personal friendship and is defined by his loyalty to Nigeria, motivated by his avowed commitment to involve a strong, united, and prosperous Nigeria. In later years after public service, his love for Nigeria further manifested in his pet project, Nigeria Praise. Like many Nigerians, I was looking forward to reading General Gowon's memoirs someday. I'm glad that General Gowon has finally brought this much anticipated project to life. The book, My Life of Duty and Allegiance, tells a unique story, and it's indeed a gift to Nigerians and the world. It gives readers a rare opportunity of going back in time to read first-hand account of some of the most significant events in our nation's history. I have had the privilege to peruse an advanced copy of the book, and I can say that it is not only engaging, but also filled with many historical records that would be of interest to historians, policymakers, bureaucrats, administrators, and the general public. From my personal recollection and the knowledge of some of the happenings in the military and the nation, the book reviewer, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, has done a great job. Before I end this tribute, let me express my gratitude to my one-time Commander-in-Chief for not allowing the business strategic and political differences that he and I may have had to affect our mutual respect and friendship either in or out of service. On behalf of my family, I congratulate General Gowon for taking time to write his memoirs and to bequeath our country and the world of the treasure trove of history that will no doubt remain one of the most best work of its kind. I also congratulate Her Excellency, Mrs. Victoria Gowon, for remaining a strong pillar of support to her husband in this project. Please accept my woman facilitation and to thank you all. As the chief presenter, he is encouraging all the other presenters and people here to procure the book for themselves, for their friends, for other schools. But for him, he asked me, I think I better use the right word, he directed me to make a pledge of presentation for the book in the sum of 3 billion. And he said he has got 20 doctorate degrees from 20 universities. Because of that, he will want each of those universities to get 12 copies for their libraries. That is 20 times 12 universities that have. And once again, he said he's given the sum of 3 billion. Thank you.
Hold on, sir. Don't go, sir. Don't go, sir. I had expected that the hall would have gone up, would be agog by now and clap on all of excitement. For the first time in the history of Nigeria, I'm hearing that a chief presenter is given that much for a book. 3 billion naira, and not just 3 billion, 3 billion naira. Can we hear that round of applause for General T.Y. Danjuma? And because of the import and interest of many Nigerians, Your Excellency, if you look around and look back, you see that the hall is still jam-packed. No event of this nature had held people spellbound like this in any of our events for a very long time. General Gowon, you are indeed the leader and the father of the country. Please, a round of applause for him. Thank you very much. Please, first of all, I would like to invite those of you in the front row to join the chief presenter for the presentation of this book, Your Excellency, please. And other presenters, co-presenters, will take you in 2 batches. Let's get the front row, first of all.
Other presenters. No, they're coming.
And other presenters, please, that are co-launchers and co-presenters, please join, including the rep of the President of the Senate, and of course, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida's representative. Can you please join His Excellency? All of you on the front row.
We are going to take other presenters after this, and I can see the hand of the president of Dangote Group, who would also like to speak to this issue. And I'd like to invite Engineer Mansour to quickly come forward. Chief Emeka of Force representative to also come forward. And while all of this activity is going on, other presenters should please come forward. Chief Okafor, Engineer Mansour is coming forward. Engineer Mansour, this way, please. You have to go through this way. Please allow Engineer Mansour for Dangote to come forward. Please, Your Excellency, sir, let Engineer Mansour come forward. Engineer Mansour, Governor of Plateau State, please, sir. Somebody is going to come through in front of you. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Everybody has a day.
If you would come up, please. Yes. No. You have to come up this way. Thank you. Be careful. The program is changing a little bit. Please come up to the podium, sir. To the podium. Thank you very much. While this picture is going on, I'd like you to please make your pronouncement real quick.
Do you want me to go ahead?
Oh, go ahead. Please come up to the podium, sir. To the podium. Thank you very much. While this picture is going on, I'd like you to please make your pronouncement real quick.
Do you want me to go ahead?
Oh, go ahead.
Your Excellencies, Your Excellency the Vice President, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed celebrant. I think it is indeed appropriate to provide some time to Alhaji Aliko. He actually came back from a trip last night, very late last night, but because he's also traveling back abroad today, he realized he could not make this trip to Abuja and then go back. And he asked me to represent him. And I spoke to him briefly on this.
General Gowon was head of state and trying to complete a task that he said was absolutely necessary. He himself was a 10-year-old primary school child, and he had a dream. His dream was indeed to step in the shoes of his well-known grandfather as one of the greatest merchants of Nigeria and West Africa. Yeah. So he therefore clearly said he was watching to see what would make that dream possible. And as indeed General Gowon succeeded in keeping Nigeria one, it created an opportunity for Alhaji Aliko to now play that role. And indeed, I think we know now that Alhaji Aliko has succeeded his grandfather, and he is now recognized as one of the perhaps leading businessmen in Nigeria and in West Africa. And for this, we would like us to thank General Yakubu Gowon for keeping Nigeria one and giving him the opportunity to become his dream. For that purpose, Alhaji Aliko had asked me to procure 25 books at the price of 500 million naira. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now the unveiling of the book, just so that we can hand over to our distinguished guests. I would like that the chief presenter leads this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the unveiling of the book, the autobiography of General Dr. Yakubu Gowon, GCFR.
Would also like to apologize to Mr. Vice President for keeping him standing. Once it's unveiled.
Okay, you too. But move this away before it comes to my face, though. Okay. Now, on behalf of General T.Y. Danjuma, I now want to unveil the book, and then the book will be brought to all those because of the inconvenient platform we have. So on behalf of General T.Y. Danjuma, I want to unveil this book and hope that the purpose of which the author has written for the unity and to tell the truth as he saw it will be achieved. Thank you.
The book is now unveiled. We'll collect the copies now and pass it back. The copies of the book real quick, like right now. The Vice President cannot be kept standing. Please, can we have the books now?
Once that is on, can we get the copies of the book? Hand them over, please. Start with the Vice President, the chairman of the occasion and his wife, the former head of state, President of the Senate, First Lady's representative, General Ibrahim Babangira's representative, and of course the governors, the honorable ministers that are here, and of course the executive secretary, school lunchers. Pastor Miseto, Pastor Dixon, please. And then, of course, a message just came to us from Alhaji Dahiru Manga through Alhaji Irwa Baba. He has graciously, Dahiru Manga, the president, Dahiru Manga Group of Companies, is picking copies of this book for 25 million naira. With a round of applause for him. We also recognize the presence, Your Excellency Richard Montgomery, the British High Commissioner to Nigeria.
At this point, once the photo opportunity is done, would like to crave the indulgence of His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, after the photo ops, to please, sir, we crave your indulgence to return to your seat. We can't keep you standing for this long. We thank you very much, those of you who have held up the book for photo opportunity. Everybody can return to their seats now. For this moment is a moment of goodwill. Only 2 minutes, because His Excellency the Vice President will soon take his leave. 2 minutes only. I am going to read out those who are going to deliver the goodwill messages. Your Excellency, we thank you for your patience, sir. We thank you for your patience. We appreciate you. At this point, I'll quickly reel out those who are doing the goodwill message. I'm a university lecturer. I'd like to appeal that we stay within the 2 minutes that we have been given. Mr. Vice President, on behalf of His Excellency the President, has been gracious. We can't stretch him any further. Please permit me to ask you all to return. Keep this aisle quiet. Leave the front. Please don't stand in front of His Excellency the representative of the President. I thank you so very much. Thank you. Help the security to do their jobs well by returning to your seats. Please assist us by Dangote's representative is sitting right here. Please. Thank you very much. Thank you. At this point, paper cover 75,000, hard copy 100,000. The account will be put up on the screens in a short while, and you can look at it. I would like at this point to quickly, I can see Lindsay Barrett. Is Lindsay Barrett in the room? Please wave your hand, Lindsay, if you are here. There is Lindsay Barrett. Good to see you. Your Excellencies, Mr. Vice President, representing His Excellency, the President of Africa's most populous nation. I'd like to call the goodwill messages real quick, and I'll read them out. You have only 2 minutes to bring your goodwill message to the table. Professor Christopher Famoye, 2 minutes. If he's anywhere in the room, he should make his way up here. Professor Famoye, from the United States of America, you've got 2 minutes only. Professor Kingsley Mogalu, former Deputy Governor CBN, 2 minutes. His Royal Highness Emir Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, same. His Eminence the Sultan of Sokoto, representative of General Babangida, Aisha Babangida, and General Abdul Salam. These are the persons delivering the goodwill messages. And Plateau State Governor will also speak for 2 minutes. That's the lineup we have. Please let's keep to our timing so we can get this show on the road and out of the way. Thank you very much. Please encourage him. It's a long walk. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Your Excellency, all protocols respected, it's such an honor to be here to celebrate a great African leader. Your Excellency, I am so touched. I am from the National Democratic Institute in Washington, D.C. I flew here for this event, but I'm also from Cameroon. And I know the relationship that existed between His Excellency that's brought us here and the former president of Cameroon, Amadou Ahidjo, whose name was mentioned. I feel very touched because this is a unique event, not just for Nigeria, but for our continent, Africa. We need to tell our story. And His Excellency, General Dr. Yakubu Gowon is helping this continent tell its story. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and may your days continue to be blessed.
Thank you so much, National Democratic Institute, United States, Professor Christopher Famoyo, Professor Kingsley Moghalu, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. I thank Professor Famoyo for keeping it under 2 minutes. We appreciate you. Professor Moghalu. I'd like to crave your indulgence to please keep the room quiet. The #1 citizen of the country is in situ. Our chief celebrant is in situ. Clear the aisles, keep the room quiet. Pay attention to the security. They're doing their job to secure us. Thank you. Professor Moghalu.
Your Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, represented by His Excellency Kashim Shettima, the celebrant or the author, General Gowon, and his dear wife, His Excellency General Gowon, all former heads on the protocols for the rest of the way, but a friend of mine warned me that this protocol will soon collapse, that we're all standing on. But let me very briefly congratulate General Gowon for doing a historic duty to our country, the recording of history from your perspective, in which you were a major player. It's a great honor. I also want to say before I leave the stage that I'm here also in a very personal capacity. 21 years ago, December 2005, December 30, we had a memorial service for the 7 years of my father's passing, the late Isaac Moghalu, who was a former Nigerian Foreign Service officer in the 1960s. And we launched the Isaac Moghalu Foundation in his memory. This event took place in Nnewi, my hometown. General Gowon honored us with his personal presence in Nnewi. He left a major address he was to have given and sent Domkat Bali, if I remember, General Domkat Bali, to represent him, and came all the way to my hometown to honor us on the remembrance of our father and on the launch of the Isaac Moghalu Foundation. Your Excellency, my mother, Vida Moghalu, brings you very special greetings. She said, but that she's not only greeting you, that you should dash her some money. She's a 90-year-old evangelist somewhere. So I just want to thank you. It's a great honor to have this privilege to greet you on this achievement. Congratulations, and may Nigeria make progress because of this work that you have done. May it advance our national healing. May it advance Nigeria's greatness. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much indeed. At 90, she's free to demand for money from anyone she likes. That's the way it is. Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Professor Kingsley Moghalu, former CBN Deputy Governor. It is at this point, while he is exchanging pleasantries with His Excellency, the representative of the President, that I would like to quickly call on my royal brother, a man so trenchant, so cerebral, who looks after all of us with his prayers at all times. My own brother, the Emir of Kano, His Royal Highness, Emir Sanusi Lamido Sanusi.
Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, here represented by His Excellency, my brother, Senator Kashim Shettima. Your Excellency General Gowon, Your Excellency Mrs. Gowon, Your Excellencies General Abdul Salami and President Jonathan, Your Eminence, please permit me to stand on already established protocol. It is a great honor for me to have this opportunity to speak for 2 minutes on this occasion of the presentation of the book from our father. Unlike Kingsley, I would like to say that I'm here in a personal capacity. If my father were alive, he would be the one seated there. General Gowon appointed my father High Commissioner to Canada, Ambassador to Belgium, and first Ambassador to China. And my parents remembered the visit of General Gowon to China when he was ambassador. And I'm proud that I was able to continue that relationship, father and son, up to this day. President Jonathan spoke about leaders be remembered for policies and infrastructure. The reality is that policies change, infrastructure also changes. What is abiding in the memory of people about their leaders is who those leaders are. Do they remember you for your integrity or for corruption? Do they remember you as a patriot or as a parochial person? Do they remember you for justice or for injustice? And I think General Gowon represents for us and all subsequent generations an example of the values that should govern you in your life. And this is the most important thing. I'll leave you with one memory abiding for me. At the age of 8, I was sent to a Catholic school in Kaduna, St. Anne's. And I was classmates with a young man called Yusuf Palm, whose father, Colonel Palm, unfortunately was one of the victims of the 1966 coup. But what I remember at the age of 8 was that General Gowon, as head of state, would send a handwritten letter to Yusufu, signed Uncle Joe. That is a window into the person that you're dealing with, that as head of state, commander-in-chief, he would write a handwritten letter to the son of his dead friend so that the boy would continue to feel he had a father. That is our memory. Thank you for being a father. Thank you for being a role model. Thank you for being an example of what a true Christian or Muslim leader ought to be. Thank you.
Thank you so very much indeed. The Emir of Kano, His Royal Highness Dr. Lamido Sanusi Lamido, who is making his way and greeting those in the front row. And as he does this, I'd like to take the microphone very quickly to His Eminence, who has a word or two. Your Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto.
Without Excellency, the President of the Republic of Nigeria, ably represented by the Vice President, Your Excellency, the celebrant, General Dr. Yakubu Gowon and his amiable wife. You forced me to speak. That's why I say I won't go up there and I won't face the camera. Too bad, they can see my back. As I was saying before, Eugenia cut me in. I was organizing the former First Lady. I call her Chief Nursing Officer of General Gowon. As a nurse, she nurtured him to be what he is today. General Gowon is not just a common person to us. He is a family member of Sultan of Sokoto, Sir Abubakar. Because I have always asked General Gowon, has he taken the fura that we used to send to him at Dodam Barracks when he was head of state? Unfortunately, I didn't bring one here. But I thank Almighty Allah that I'm privileged to be alive and to be here as son of his father, whom he so much respected, whom he so much loved, and cherished all his words of advice during the war and after the war. And I want to thank the General for giving us the opportunity to be here today to witness this historic event, launching your own biography while you are still alive. And it is one of the most important things to do. It's not after someone's death, people write lies and lies about the person when he is not alive to defend himself. We thank Allah you are alive and you presented to us your own true words. If anybody doubts your true words, let him go and write his own and what he thinks about you. So we thank you and we are happy that we're part of this historic event and wish you many, many more years of service to humanity, which you are doing. You are serving humanity, and we thank Almighty for your life, a life of humility, life of spirituality, and as they call you, I just had one word, I mean a particular word now that I've had. Is it something Christian? Muscular Christian. You happen to be a muscular Christian, son of a Muslim leader. So that's very good, and that's why we keep on saying all of us as Christians and Muslims, we should be what we are to make our humanity better. If you're a good Christian, do what Christianity said you should do. If you're a good Muslim, do what Islam said you should do. And then we'll be at peace with one another, and not only Nigeria, but the whole world will be a better place. So keep on being muscular Christian, keep on being the good person you are, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you many, many more years of service to humanity. And may He also give the Chief Nursing Officer many, many more years of service to you and to humanity. And we thank you and we keep on praying for you. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you. Just as we take the mic, the book is currently in the venue and available for purchase. The soft copy, 75,000, and the hard copy is going for 100,000 naira only.
I'd like at this point to very quickly invite the Governor of Plateau State to take his 2 minutes. After that, we're taking the distinguished Senator Ireti Kengebe, who is representing the President of the Senate, before we come to Erelu Aisha Babangida and General Abdul Salam. I've been instructed to give you 2 minutes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic, ably represented by the Vice President, the former heads of states who are here, General Yakubu Gowon, our grandfather, and our grandmother, I bring felicitations from the people of Plateau State. We are so proud to have donated you to Nigeria and to Africa. We are so proud. I am living a dream that I am privileged to be alive at this point in time, serving as governor of the state of origin of this great statesman. And I was barely 2 years old when he became head of state. And to be here to speak on this occasion, for me, is a living dream. But I want to thank you, sir. And I happen also to have been born in Wusasa. So I have a lot in common. I want to thank all of you who have turned up to honor this great man. And on behalf of the government and people of Plateau State, we would be purchasing at least 100 copies of the book for distribution to our various institutions for the sum of 200 million naira. I have also consulted with Mr. Vice President, who is the chairman of the National Economic Council, where all governors sit in council, and he has directed me to announce on behalf of each state of Nigeria a humble donation of 25 million naira per state. Thank you for this privilege and honor. Wow. And God bless.
Thank you very much. Just as I mentioned earlier on, softback of the book is going for 75,000, and the hardback cover goes for 100,000 naira. Grab your copy now.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, grab your copies now. The slips are going around the room. Please collect. Our other presenters are in the room. We have not forgotten that you are here. We know that they have all been invited by General T.Y. Danjuma to make their donations. As your donations come to us, we would crave indulgence to make them public. I'd like at this point to immediately invite to the podium for her 2 minutes the representative of the President of the Senate, the very distinguished Senator Ireti Kingibe. Her 2 minutes is now, and after that, we're rolling quickly towards the end of this goodwill messages to allow us also sell the books. We'd like to thank His Excellency the Vice President for the opportunity he has given us.
And as you come, please fill in your slips and hand them back to us. If you want them mentioned, we'll read them. But if you don't want them mentioned, we'll hand them over to our registrars. The distinguished President of the Senate's representative.
His Excellency, the President of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, ably represented by my brother, the Vice President of Nigeria, His Excellency General Yakubu, and his fantastic and able wife. Former President here represented, all other protocols duly observed. I will quickly read the message of the Senate President, message of felicitation. On this occasion, marking the unveiling of your autobiography, I extend to Your Excellency warm felicitations from my family and the entire 10th Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. When General Babangida presented his memoir, A Journey in Service, and you were there as a distinguished guest of honor, the whole country wondered when this great man was going to present his own story. The expectation waited with bated breath has now found fulfillment. I congratulate Your Excellency on the painstaking work that has gone into producing this book, not only capable of addressing gaps, misinformation, disinformation in our national history, but also stands as an invaluable resource that will help shape the future of generations of leaders and inspire them in a deeper sense of patriotism and national service. Providence brought you into leadership, sir, and a nation as a remarkably young man, at an age when Nigeria stood dangerously at the edge of disintegration. You rallied the nation with an immortal declaration: to keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done. That statement did not merely become a wartime slogan. It evolved into a generational rallying cry for national unity, patriotism, and the indivisibility of the Nigerian nation. Admiring compatriots even found creative expression in redefining your name, Gowon, as an acronym for Go On With One Nigeria. It was both a tribute to your leadership and an affirmation of the hope you inspired in millions who longed for peace, reconciliation, and national cohesion. Yes, perhaps even more remarkable than victory in war was your humility in victory. At the end of the Civil War, when bitterness, vengeance, and triumphalism could easily have prevailed, Your Excellency rose above the passions of conflict and declared to the world, no victor, no vanquished. In those simple 4 words, you planted the seeds of reconciliation. Thank you. Healing and national reintegration that continue to resonate in the conscience of the nation. In the darkest and most turbulent years of military rule, when Nigerians gasped for breath of freedom and democracy, Your Excellency mounted the watchtower of faith and called Nigerians to prayer. Through the Nigeria Praise movement, you reminded the nation that beyond politics of power lies the sovereignty of Almighty God. And as the Holy Scriptures declare, the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Today, Nigeria, in spite of her trials and imperfections, enjoys a thriving democracy. Your commitment to Nigeria has remained steadfast and unwavering. Long after leaving office, the values you espouse continue to endure, and your enduring legacy of service, sacrifice, humility, patriotism, and faith remains a source of inspiration to countless Nigerians. You belong to that rare company of men whose lives become part of the moral architecture of their country. As we gather for this historic occasion, marking the presentation of your autobiography, it is my fervent prayer to the Almighty God that He keeps you in good health, grants you continued strength, and preserves you for many more years as a guiding light and inspiration to Nigerians, especially those entrusted with leadership responsibilities. Congratulations, Your Excellency. Senator Godswill Obot Akpabio, GCON, and also on behalf of myself, congratulations, sir. The Senate President and I, we will both launch this book for an undisclosed amount for an undisclosed number of books. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Speaking, the President of the Senate, speaking through distinguished Senator Ireti Kengibe. The one thing about this book, Your Excellency, that might gladden my heart and a lot of us here is the fact that General Gowon refers to saying that this book does not seek to reopen old wounds of the Civil War, but rather to clarify history, preserve memory, and provide insight for generations yet unborn. The next goodwill message, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, will be coming from General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, GCFR, the former president of Nigeria, ably represented here this morning, this afternoon, by his own first daughter, Aisha Babangida. Please, if your hands are not very busy, we'd like that you please come up to the stage, to the podium, and as you're coming, I'd like to just crave an indulgence to just take 2 minutes, skip protocols as much as possible for brevity of time. Another round of applause for General Babangida, please.
My dear father, before I start, my dear mother, please permit me, as your in-house agent, to take a little bit longer than 2 minutes. Thank you. Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ably represented by Senator Kashim Shettima. Your Excellency, my dear fathers, General Abdulsalam, President Goodluck, Jonathan, and my dear, beautiful young mother, Dame Patience Goodluck, distinguished members of the National Assembly, honorable ministers and senior government officials, traditional rulers, religious leaders, members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I have the singular honor and privilege of standing before you today to deliver a message from my father, President Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, who has asked that his remarks be presented exactly as he prepared them. Before proceeding, permit me to acknowledge with deep personal and respect and affection to General Gowon, whose long and distinguished public service to our nation I have had the privilege of witnessing, not only as a statesman of exceptional stature, but also as a long-standing and trusted family member. It is therefore a particular honor to be here. Tribute to General Yakubu Gowon, GCFR, by General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, on the occasion of the launching of his autobiography, My Life of Duty and Allegiance. Perhaps no other Nigerian leader embodies our national history as much as General Yakubu Gowon. For this, he deserves the salute of our nation as his autobiography is presented at the ripe age of 91 years and in good health. Like most patriotic Nigerians, I am joined by my family to wish him many more years of service to our country and humanity. Today, we celebrate him as we recall his illustrious story of selfless and outstanding service to our dear fatherland. A celebration of General Gowon will be incomplete without acknowledging that behind most of his giant strides in life, there is his wife. A wonderful lady, Victoria Hanseto Gowon, nee Zachary, that he married in 1969 at the Cathedral Church of Christ Marina, Lagos. From that time on, she had been a great pillar of support to the general, and as the third youngest First Lady of Nigeria, she was graceful, modest, and very kind, simple and down to earth. He assumed national leadership at an auspicious moment in our history. A series of crises enveloped the nation following the January 1966 military overthrow of the first civilian government. The forces of division threatened the continued existence of the nation. Even the military, as a unifying institution, faced existential crisis. Our boss, Yakubu Gowon, therefore assumed power with a triple mandate at a moment of grave national necessity. He was challenged to keep the nation united. He was called upon to keep the military united as an instrument of national unity. Above all, he and his colleagues faced the challenge of resuming the task of nation building from where the colonialists and founding fathers had left off. It is to General Gowon's eternal credit that he faced all these historical challenges with courage, wisdom, and characteristic humility. Perhaps his Middle Belt origins facilitated his task by reducing the polarizing tendency of national leadership at that stage. None of the three major regions of the country could claim him as representing their interest, but at that of the nation as a whole. Even then, the forces of division had reached an advanced stage. The nation tragically split into two warring factions as the former Eastern region declared itself the Republic of Biafra, pitted in a civil war against the rest of the nation. General Gowon was transformed from national hero to a war hero who fought and ended a bloody and unnecessary civil war. He ended the war and he reunited the country with the attendant task of reconstruction and rehabilitation of the war-affected sections of the country. It is to the credit of this statesman-like leadership, that the war ended with minimal bitterness on all sides. There were no successor guerrilla factions or unresolved residual conflicts. In the post-era, Gowon followed up with fundamental nation-building policies. To his credit are the establishment of a unified national command for the armed forces and the police, which has preserved these institutions as forces of national cohesion to date. He established the National Youth Corps Scheme, the National Unity Secondary Schools, and the Federal Character Quota systems for appointments and representation in federal government agency. This in addition to introducing an indigenous national currency, the Naira, to replace the colonial British pound sterling. And here I have orders. He also established the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, as an instrument of cohesion and integration among West African states. All these institutions have survived till date. Even after leaving office, General Gowon has continued to work towards unity and harmony. He has shunned partisan politics in spite of pressure. He has avoided the building of a political presence or personality cult. In a nation still racked by divisive forces and tendencies, it is to General Gowon's abiding credit that he has not been associated with any of the trending ethnic, religious, or geopolitical movement ravaging today's Nigeria. He has instead remained one steady symbol and voice of a united, diverse, and inclusive nation. General Gowon was not and has never been associated with corruption, nor did he have any overt cooperative interests or involvement. Instead, he has continued to live a simple and modest life as a shining example to our younger generations. In time of crisis, he has been available for national service as a mediator and conciliator. At other times, he has led the nation in prayer under his pet project, Nigeria Prays. Successive governments have easily resorted to his experience and counsel, often consulting him in dealing with the contemporary problems of governance and leadership. This distinguished soldier, officer, gentleman, nationalist, and outstanding statesman has served Nigeria well and embodied our finest values. History will remain fair to him as a grateful nation salutes him on the occasion of the public presentation of his autobiography that will be a reference point of public service with sincerity, compassion, and commitment to the patriotic belief in one Nigeria as a nation of diverse cultures, history, and beliefs, the hallmarks of our strength and resilience, enamored by the belief and faith in God. United we stand, and divided we fall. Live long, our amiable, warm-hearted, and charming general. I commend this autobiography to all Nigerians, Africans, to all lovers of Nigeria across the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Both of us are laughing here because I just whispered. I said, you haven't given us the Naira and Kobo that you came with from General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. Ladies and gentlemen, please very quickly for all the co-presenters that are seated, time will not permit us to be able to invite all of you to come over here. But if you have your the amount of money you want to support this book with, written already in the slip, on the slip, please you can return them through the ushers to us. If you intend that we announce them very quickly. But if not, then we can just make do with this. Ladies and gentlemen, please, rise with me Let me just very quickly. All right. I'd like to please invite the next speaker. Okay. All right. We'd like to invite the former head of state, General Abdusalami Abubakar GCFR, and the said microphone should be taken to him, but he has also graciously, Your Excellency, asked that his daughter, Eugenia Abu, reads his thoughts for this audience. Please, ladies and gentlemen, can we have a round of applause, please, for her?
Your Excellency, sir, it is such a privilege for me to do this for His Excellency General Abdul Salam, my father and my uncle. General Gowon is a man who has served his nation well. General Gowon remains a good man at work and at home, and has been married to Mrs. Victoria Gowon for all of 57 years. I greet Mrs. Gowon on this auspicious occasion. General Gowon is a soldier and a gentleman. I salute you for your resilience, your dexterity, and your determination to keep Nigeria one. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I salute you, dear General Gowon, and I wish you well. Signed, His Excellency General Abdul Salam Abubakar.
General Abdul Salam Abubakar there speaking through Eugenia Abu, and we'd like to appreciate you very quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, time is of the essence, and so please I'd like you to please rise with me and celebrate an extraordinary patriot, an elder statesman, bridge builder. Let me also have a pause here to recognize the representative of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, represented by the wife of the Chief of Staff to the President, Mrs. Salamatu Bajabiamila. We welcome you. Thank you very much. At this juncture, Your Excellency, the special guest of honor, I'd like that you please join me as we rise and celebrate an extraordinary patriot, an elder statesman, a bridge builder, and one of the most significant figures in Nigeria's history. Join me as we welcome to the podium for his remarks the convener of this epoch-making event, His Excellency General Dr. Yakubu Gowon, GCFR, the crooner of No Victor, No Vanquish, and go on with one Nigeria. His Excellency, the Vice President asked that we take the mic to him, but he has still insisted that he would rather come to the podium to deliver his remarks. Your Excellency, General Dr. Yakubu Gowon'S, sir, please appreciate the Vice President leading his father and our father up to the podium for his remarks. The Vice President has asked that you use his podium. Please, can we have a resounding applause for him one more time? And for the Vice President...
Shall I say, just abide by the existing protocol so that we can get on with what has brought us here? Thank you. Mr. President, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as far as anniversaries go, 2026 is a landmark year in the evolving history of our dear nation, Nigeria. It is a year that connects our past with the present and points the way to the future. 60 years ago, the course of Nigeria's political history was altered with the incursion of the military into governance. 60 years ago, I providentially had the opportunity to begin to lead Nigeria. 60 years ago, our country stood on the brink of disintegration, and the circumstances of the time made me to renew my commitment to serve Nigeria with all my strength. But it is sheer coincidence that I am formally sharing the story of my life and what happened in our country 60 years after the occurrences. It was not planned to be so. As I entered the hall, I was immediately overwhelmed by the quality of attendance of this event. Each person present has a reason to be absent. I welcome serving and retired military personnel daily kept awake by the challenge of insurgency in the country. I appreciate political leaders who chose to be here instead of being on the field to chase tickets for political offices in 2027. I warmly acknowledge the presence of busy business executives who left their boardrooms despite mounting turbulence occasioned by happening in the Middle East. We have scholars and researchers who have paused their search for insights into political transitions and elite decision-making in the country. We also have friends and associates who should be pursuing several other interests. I'm sure our journalists are eager to amplify the story of aging statesmen. I warmly, but I think if they've heard Bishop Skuka's presentation, they don't have to come back to me at all. Thank you. I warmly and sincerely appreciate the presence of everyone here, everyone present here today. Thank you. God bless you all. As I said, publishing my autobiography in the 60th year of my becoming head of state is mere coincidence. I had no timetable in mind. Over several years, several individuals tried their best to persuade me to end the growing spate of misinformation and disinformation on me in national conversations. More pressure was mounted when rumors of my death gained ground. Not once, but many times, I think up to 4 times so far. I wonder how many more will be done. As you can attest today, these reports, to paraphrase the writer Mark Twain, were over-exaggerated. When I eventually decided to write, I was clear that I only needed to tell my truth, not join issues with anyone or sit in judgment over what might be considered right or wrong. I chose this path over my former stance to maintain silence conscious. My story and that of Nigeria were too intertwined, so I needed to mind the gap and avoid feeding negative narratives that could reopen old wounds. My life of duty and allegiance is the result of strong collaborative efforts based on my lifelong recollections, the dedication of my research team that comprised my former press secretary, Elder Moses Ihonde, and the hard-working, bald-headed young man, Dotun Adekambi, as well as the commitment of the publishers, the Havila Group, led by Abel Akogun, Landre Adesue. But the book is not celebration of me. Rather, as I wrote, it is my modest attempt at expressing gratitude for the opportunity to serve Nigeria and to dream alongside individuals and groups that shared a boundless faith in our nation's future. Though many of them acknowledge their contributions from the depth of my heart, I cannot say it loudly enough that my belief in the long-term survival of Nigeria is total, because my love for the country and its people is beyond question. Let me remember all those dedicated public servants, whether home or external affairs. May I recognize and appreciate all those few old officers of all the members of the armed forces and the younger ones who really toil so hard and will work together in order to preserve the unity of this country. Yes, some of them are now nearly as old as I am. One is Akilu Nade, one is Ibrahim Haruna. You remembered our in the battle, Onitsha battle, telephone battle? Honestly, and I remember also all the, our natural rulers throughout the country. Honestly, the way they helped me with prayers and support and to get their people, to support what we're trying to do. Well, is it the grandson, or are you a son? Of Sir Abubakar III, the Sultan of Sokoto. I can assure you, he had a very big effort to make sure that he really ensured there is peace. There is peace in the country, especially with the death, of his cousin, the Sultan of Sokoto. And I know the way he came to Lagos on a number of occasions in order to sue for peace so that Nigeria can continue. I remember that very dearly. Yes, honestly, I'm proud of all those who served with me at that time from 1975, of all ages, and all the Nigerians also that really gave me support. It is Nigerians that told me, when I read in the pages of newspaper, that, do you know the meaning of Gowon? I said, meaning of Gowon? Well, I know the meaning of Gowon, but what is it? So I read from that newspaper. I don't know whether it was Herald in a newspaper, but when I read that, or Observer, when I read that paper, and I saw that it says, the meaning of Gowon is go on with one Nigeria, I was surprised. I should go on with one Nigeria. So it gave me a feeling, it gave me further courage to make sure that, yes, that is what I will do. And I will ask all Nigerians to help me do that. And I can assure you, all Nigerians, that is all part of the country, rallied round. And this is where I was. One young man, Upabi Asika, a university lecturer, when I was looking for somebody that will now help me to look after the East at that time. So I asked Obasanjo to please contact some of the senior lecturers at the University of Ibadan, to find me somebody that I think is brave enough, to be able to accept to be either the governor or administrator in the East. And this is where he did his best. I think he contacted Professor Ajayi and I think a number of others at the University of Ibadan, and they got one young man called Upabi Asika. And when he came to see me, I said to him, this is a task that I will not, if you are my brother, I will advise you not to take this, this suggestion. But from all that I heard from that young man, well, he was probably about the same age. What I heard of him, I was convinced that he has the courage, he has a belief and love for Nigeria, and certainly does not want the East to break away from Nigeria. And he accepted. And I can assure you, for what he did to look after the Eastern region at that time, for what he did, I was really very touched. And for that reason, we cannot afford to do anything that is going to harm or hurt, or leave a bad impression, from the East. I understand that his son, Asika, I think, are you here? If you are here, you better stand up so that I can see you, because I haven't seen you for many years. Oh, there you are. Thank you. Nice to see you. Now, today, Nigeria has again launched another cycle of preparation towards the general election in 2027. It goes without saying that we all must rise to contain the desperation frequently exhibited by the political class who engage in what they love to call do or die politicking and their inability to conduct free, fair, and transparent elections. Even in matters as minor as intra-party elections, which has continued to plague our nation from colonial times. We must not give room to the naysayers who see no good in our nation and would rather label it as a failed nation. Each time I reflect on my service to my country, I become further persuaded that Nigeria can get better and achieve her potentials as the giant of Africa. On my watch as head of state, the country did not fall, and I am confident that the nation, despite all its challenges, still will not fall. But I am worried that Nigerians never seem to get tired of presenting difficult solutions to simple problems, which they further complicate with more complex and ambiguous solutions that invariably generate tensions in the country. My belief is that this book, My Life of Duty and Allegiance, will help to correct misconceptions and fill the gaps in public narratives. For the proverbial ordinary man and those who currently shoulder the burden of leadership, I hope my story will show that public service is never a call to vain glory, but an aspiration of guardianship by those who would lead with conscience and conviction. I would like to say thank you to Bishop Kuka for really presenting this book. My goodness, I think he's made it even more, better understood than probably, when I read it, I thought probably it didn't explain enough, but he has done well. Thank you very much, Bishop Kuka, for the review, for beautiful review of the book. Now, what can one say other than to say to each and every one of you here today, of course, I know the chairman, of the occasion, and his dear wife, the representative of Mr. President, our Vice President, is here, and all of you important personalities here. And where is my in-house agent, my special in-house agent? This is a young lady. When I tried to get General Babangida in order to advise him for anything, and I cannot get him, no matter how much I try. I was lucky to be able to have her telephone number. And when I rang her, she said, "Wait, uncle, wait a moment," and she will take the telephone to him. and I believe she will stand there and he took the telephone and answered me. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, my special, and so I name her my special in-house agent. Yes, honestly, I'm really very touched with this reception, this book launch. All of you have done exceptionally well, and I'm really grateful. My young youth service corps that gave me a guard of honor before I came, and of course a troop of them outside to welcome me here. Thank you, and to all of you who went through the youth corps through your life. Thank you for the service that you also rendered for the country. Well done to you all. Well, to all of you, what do we call you? You are the MC, Master of Ceremony. Yes, sir. But she is not a mister. Thank you very much for a job very well done. And God bless each and every one of you. Thank you kindly.
Thank you very much. Please put your hands together for the elder statesman, bridge builder, former head of state of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, General Dr. Yakubu Gowon, GCFR. Can we please give him a big round of applause as he goes down? Very quickly, please, the co-presenters and co-launchers who were meant to send in their notes or slips, please can we have them now so we can announce them? But very quickly, I'd like to welcome my Lord Honorable Justice Monica Benson B. Menson, Dongman Menson, President Court of Appeal. My Lord, you're most welcome. We also want to appreciate very quickly the chairman of the occasion and his wife, former President of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan and Mama Peace. Can we please put our hands together for them? Our Vice President, thank you so much for your patience. We can't thank you enough. Then we are beginning to get in, some money is coming in. 100, let me take this one first of all. We have the University of Abuja pledging the sum of 2.5 million naira. Please give them a round of applause. University of Abuja, that's the Yakubu Gowon University, Abuja. And then we have General and Mrs. Anthony Hanania pledging the sum of 500,000 naira for 2 copies of this book. Then we have the Secretary to Government of the Federation supporting the launch of this book with a sum of 20 million naira for 10 copies. Please keep the clap coming. Federal High Court picking 5 copies for 100,000 naira, 1 million naira, I beg your pardon. And then we have the Barewa Old Boys Board of Trustees led by Lawal Garba, who is a member. They are picking 100 copies at 100,000 naira each, totaling 10 million naira. Please can we give them a round of applause? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please, we're waiting for the slips to return to us as Daddy General Gowon returns to his set. And whilst he's at the verge of doing that, would like to please appreciate the DG NYSC one more time, Brigadier General Nafiu. Thank you so very much. We appreciate you. Very quickly, a few more currencies coming in. Quickly, we'd like to announce 15 million naira. 15 million naira coming from Chief A.C. Okafor, OFR, who is standing in for Chief Emeka Okafor. Chief Bayo Ojo, former Attorney General and Minister of Justice, 500,000 naira, and he has paid in cash. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats briefly as we invite the man who was the Chief Press Secretary to General Dr. Yakubu Gowon, whilst he held sway as the head of state of Nigeria, and he also is privileged to also be the one that wrote the foreword of his book. Please, ladies and gentlemen, veteran journalist par excellence, please welcome with me Elder Moses Ihonde, former Chief Press Secretary to General Dr. Yakubu Gowon, whilst he was head of state of Nigeria. Can we welcome him with a round of applause, please? Thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure. Now, Oga. Yes, please, we can do better with that round of applause. Thank you so much, sir. You do us a favor if you keep it very
Thank you
brief
so
to
much.
help us.
If you can take this.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, please permit me to stand on already established protocol to deliver the vote of thanks. Thank you. Today has been more than a book launch. It has been a moment of history, reflection, and national memory. We have gathered not just to unveil an autobiography, but to honor a life of service, sacrifice, statesmanship, and enduring commitment to Nigeria. First and foremost, we acknowledge with profound respect the presence of the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces, as represented by his Vice, Alhaji Kashim Shettima, GCON, your presence has added immense honor to this occasion. We especially celebrate the author and celebrant, General Dr. Yakubu Gowon, GCFR, elder statesman, patriot, peacemaker, and former head of state of Nigeria. Sir, your life continues to inspire generations, and this book stands as a gift, a testimony of wisdom and leadership to our nation and to the world. We sincerely also appreciate Mrs. Victoria Hansatu Gowon for her steadfast support throughout this remarkable journey. We express our gratitude to the distinguished presenter, General T.Y. Danjuma, GCON, and all the co-presenters whose generosity and support made this launch possible, including Alhaji Aliko Dangote, Alhaji Abdul Samad Rabiu, Otumba Michael Adenuga, Mr. Femi Otedola, Prince Arthur Eze,
Chief Alex Okafor, Sir Chief Gabriel Igbinedion, Sir Jim Ovia, Alhaji Dahiru Barao Mangao, Mr. Tony Elumelu, Honorable Jerry Damara, and Pastor Mesoma Dixon, and Alhaji Seyu Dantata. We sincerely appreciate your commitment to preserving history and honoring leadership. We appreciate Mr. Lanre Idowu for the excellent editorial work of this book. His Lordship Bishop Matthew Kuka for his invaluable review. Mr. Dotun Adekombi, whom I have designated Special Assistant to General Dr. Yakubu Gowon, for his tireless coordination and logistics. Also, Havila Merchants for the professional publishing of this work. And our distinguished Masters of Ceremony, Eugenia Abu and Andy Gabriel, for their excellent performance. Finally, we give glory to Almighty God for preserving the life of General Dr. Yakubu Gowon and granting him the grace to document this remarkable journey. To all our distinguished guests and all of you who have honored this invitation, I say thank you. Thank you for adding dignity and warmth to this historic occasion. Finally, my prayer is that God may bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I'm fine, thank you, sir. Thank you. Elder Ihonde, Press Secretary to General Yakubu Gowon when he served as head of state. And if you have read the foreword of this book, he says, I was a young officer when I assumed duty as press secretary. And today at 89, I'm blessed to have the opportunity to contribute to values of humility, hard work, honesty of purpose, instilled in General Gowon since childhood, guided his working life all the time, because everything is about the truth. A round of applause for Elder Ihonde, who also wrote the foreword. Delivering a vote of thanks is very difficult, and I think he aced it. We thank you, sir. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, 3 months after being commissioned at the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, March 1957, 3 months after that, Ghana gained independence. And the Ghanaians had a gate that was special, and they showed some superiority over Nigerians, and General Gowon wished it was his country. He says, I'm a proud Nigerian born exactly 20 years after Nigeria's birth in 1934. Let's give a round of applause to General Gowon, please. Those are quotes from the book that everybody must have. The Governor of Benue State, Your Excellency, is here in representation by Dr. Jimmy Ajim, Director General Plenipotentiary, is here representing Governor of Benue State, and Colonel Tunde Akogun, whom you remember well, and Mrs. Akogun are also here. I'd like to inform you that refreshment of VIPs is to the right, and others will receive their bags outside as they make their way out.
It's our in-law, the chief people. The sister was married to a chief man, Mr. No. Thank you very much, sir. 2, Bishop Kuka mentioned something very topical, but he made it very short about the Dimka coup. When Awudu Ogbe was elected chairman of our party, the Old Boys of King's College organized a dinner for him. On the eve of the dinner, Alison Aida, former Secretary of Government of the Service, was present, and I think at that time he was the president of King's College Old Boys Association. In Awudu Ogbe's house, I think we were 10, just about 10, he made a comment which was very interesting. He said something that after the announcement by Mr. President of those involved in the coup, he sent him to the British High Commissioner to say that he was not sure whether he was involved in that coup or not, and he shouldn't release General Gowon, because he couldn't guarantee his safety. He wasn't sure of his capability in that coup. I just want to say this for emphasis. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now invite my distinguished senior, the representative of the President, to make the President's statement. Invited, sir.
Thank you so much. About 6 years ago, precisely 31st May 1961, President John F. Kennedy and Mrs. Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy arrived in Paris, France. It was JFK's first trip overseas as then President of America, and the stakes were high. Jacqueline stepped effortlessly into her role, flirtatiously speaking French with Charles de Gaulle, of course with her elegance, grace, and charm, captivating Parisians. Her husband was proud, realizing that she could be an effective ambassador and diplomat. It was on this trip that he made the famous statement, "I am the man who accompanied Jacqueline Kennedy to Paris." As a young primary school pupil in Maiduguri, when General Yakubu Gowon paid a state visit to the then Northeast, we all lined up, not to see him, but to see his elegant, beautiful First Lady, Field Marshal Victoria Gowon. Since her exit, that role became famous only with the late Mariam Babangida. And of course, seated here, is one of the most colorful and famous first ladies of Nigeria, Dame Patience Jonathan. Our celebrant, elder statesman, the last man standing, former head of state of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, General Yakubu Gowon, GCFR, and his dear wife, Mrs. Victoria Gowon. The former head of state of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, General Abdul Salami Abubakar, GCFR. The former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and chairman of the occasion, His Excellency Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, GCFR, and his dear wife, the former First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Her Excellency Dame Patience Jonathan. The former head of state, the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, ably represented by the former first daughter, Mrs. Aisha Babangida. The First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, ably represented by the wife of the Chief of Staff to the President, Mrs. Salamatu Bajabiamila. The President of the Senate, ably represented by distinguished Senator Ireti Kingibe, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the card with 9 lives, Senator George Akume. The Executive Governor of Plateau State, His Excellency Barrister Kale Manese Mutpon, the former Chief of Staff, former Minister of Defense, and the book presenter, General T. White Anjuma, ably represented by General Martin Luther Agwai. My colleagues in the Federal Executive Council, too numerous to mention, the Minister of Budget and Planning, the Minister of Arts and Culture, the Minister of Defense, and so many of them. The former governors here. I must mention Alhaji Ahmed Adamu Muazu, and of course, I last saw Babatunde Raji Pashola, but he is now conspicuously absent. The President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Monica Lomgan Mensem, the Special Advisor to the President on General Duties, Office of the Vice President, and former FCT Minister, Dr. Aliyu Modibo Umar, and other senior presidential aides, heads of federal government agencies and parastatals, His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Muhammad Saad Abubakar III. My 2 very good friends, I call them my brothers. Both of them are very erudite, and both of them have a penchant for calling a spade not by any other thing but his name. Very controversial people. My brother, His Royal Highness, the Emir of Kano, Muhammad Sanusi II, and of course, my Lord, the Bishop of the Sokoto. He is vertically challenged but intellectually robust, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka. Our elder statesmen, General Alani Akinrodade, General IBM Haruna, General Al-Wali Kazir, General Abdurrahman Bello Dambazo, General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, and my very good friend, I call him my friend in spite of the fact that he is just a year or 2 older than me, General Laki Erabo. The Group Chief Executive of Habila Group, Akogunlare Adeshui, and his dear wife, our spiritual leaders here present, especially the President of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Archbishop Daniel Oko. And I also want to acknowledge the presence of the scions of former colleagues of General Yakubu Gowon. Retired Brigadier Abba Malari, son of the late General Zakari Malari. Minister of Agriculture, Senator Abubakar Kyari, son of the late Brigadier Abba Kyari. Air Commodore Kur Mohammed, son of the late Colonel Kur Mohammed Pama. and of course, my sister, Aisha Babangida, and Mohamed Abacha, son of the late General Sani Abacha. Members of the fourth estate of the Rim, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. A nation that misplaces its memory soon begins to quarrel with its own reflection. A society without memory becomes an orphan in time. It is condemned to inherit confusion from one generation to the next. This is why we need the recollections of those who have walked the difficult path before us. Today offers us such a solemn privilege to see Nigeria reflected in the memory of one of the nation's most enduring custodians, a witness whose life has become part of the archive of the Republic. Autobiography, when written by a life of consequence, is one of the noblest forms of national archiving. It permits a citizen to return to the arena of action with the humility of hindsight. It allows power to explain itself after the noise of the moment has faded. It gives the Republic access to the inner weather of decisions that once appeared to the rest of us as thunder on the distant horizon. That is why we are gathered here today. We are here because General Yakubu Gowon has given Nigeria a volume of memory at a time when our country needs the discipline of remembrance. We are here because the story of a man who stood at the center of Nigeria's most testing years cannot be left to fragments, suspicion, and careless narration. We are here because the past, when honestly preserved, becomes a compass for the future. The timing is instructive. About half a century ago, Nigeria was confronted by a crisis that tested the imagination of the state and the endurance of its people. General Gowon belonged to that severe hour. History placed upon his shoulders the burden of a country struggling to remain whole. The decisions of that period cannot be understood by those who examine them with the arrogance of comfort. They must be approached with sobriety, because every generation that inherits peace must learn to speak gently about the choices made in the season of peril. When the Gowon's fell silent, Nigeria needed more than the silence of weapons. It needed the language of return, the syntax of healing, and the assurance that citizenship will not be reduced to a verdict passed by the bitterness of war. The famous declaration of no victor, no vanquish entered our national vocabulary because it answered a deep need in the soul of the Republic. It told a bruised country that survival will have to be built on reconciliation, and that reconciliation will have to be strengthened by policy, patience, and trust. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that is one of the reasons General Gowon's story remains indispensable. He understood that unity cannot be sustained by speeches alone. Unity must be given institutions. It must be given rituals of encounter. It must be given roads, schools, service, federal balance, and shared experiences that persuade citizens to see one another as partners in destiny. The National Youth Service Corps, for instance, stands in that tradition. For generations, young Nigerians have crossed the rivers of language, faith, and culture through that program. Many discovered, sometimes for the first time, that a stranger from another region could become a friend, a colleague, a spouse, a mentor, or for the first time, witness to the vastness of Nigeria. The governor of Plateau State met and married his wife from Delta during his service here. General Gowon also represents a deeper rebuke to the merchants of division. In the lazy vocabulary of prejudice, the North is often misdescribed as one religious bloc, while the South is equally imprisoned in the stereotypes of those who profit from such fiction. His life compounds that poverty of imagination. Here was a Christian son of the North, a child of the North Central, a soldier, accepted across lines that others tried to harden into walls, a Nigerian whose example showed that identity can be carried without hostility. His story teaches us that the Nigerian project becomes stronger when a citizen refuses to become a weapon in the hands of sectarian entrepreneurs. General Gowon's place in history also travels beyond our borders. West Africa remembers him as one of the builders of regional cooperation. The formation of ECOWAS remains one of the great acts of political foresight on our continent. It was born from an understanding that neighboring nations must do more than exchange plaques and ceremonies. They must exchange goods, ideas, security cooperation, diplomatic competence, and economic opportunity. In that vision, General Gowon saw West Africa as a community of shared burdens and shared possibilities. That regional vision is still urgent today. The challenges before West Africa have changed in form, yet their underlying demands remain familiar. We need cooperation against insecurity. We need trade that empowers our young people. We need diplomacy that prevents conflict from becoming contagion. We need a region where borders do not become barricades against prosperity. The wisdom embedded in the ECOWAS project continues to remind us that the destiny of Nigeria is tied to the stability and progress of its neighbors. Your Excellencies, Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there are people who are remembered because they held office. There are others whose memory endures because office became in their hands an instrument of national meaning. General Gowon belongs to the second company. His public life is inseparable from the story of Nigeria's survival. Yet his later years have given that story another kind of beauty. He has shown that dignity can outlive authority, that patriotism can outlast position, and that a former leader can remain a moral presence without turning himself into a rival institution. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is the gift of today's book. It offers younger Nigerians a chance to encounter leadership beyond slogans. It offers public servants a mirror in which to examine the course of decisions. It offers historians material for deeper study. It also offers policymakers a reminder that the state is built by memory as much as by law. It offers all of us a warning that countries do not endure by accident. They endure because in the hours when collapse appears possible, some men and women choose duty over vanity. General Yakubu Gowon's autobiography is therefore a civic inheritance. It should find its way into libraries, classrooms, barracks, universities, policy institutes, and homes. It should stimulate debate without malice. It should imbibe scholarship without prejudice. It should provoke gratitude without suppressing inquiry. A serious nation does not fear its history. A serious nation studies it, argues with it, learns from it, and uses it to build a wiser future for the citizenry. As we present this book to the public, we honor more than the author's longevity. We honor a life that has crossed the frontiers of command, exile, scholarship, elderhood, and service. We honor a Nigerian who has remained devoted to the peace of the country through many seasons of our national evolution. We honor a witness to history who has now placed his recollections in the custody of the Republic. On behalf of His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, I congratulate General Yakubu Gowon, GCFR, on the public presentation of this autobiography. I commend the book to the conscience of our nation, to the curiosity of our young people, and to the judgment of history. Some few weeks back, I was opportune to be a party to a meeting of Plateau elders with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. There is a substantial Plateau presence here. I urge you, I beseech you, I beg you in the name of God, for the sake of the last man standing, let us unite as a people. As Martin Luther King said, let us learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. To say that I was disappointed by that encounter is an understatement. I am a Kanuri man from Borno. Half of the people of Central Plateau are claiming descent from Borno. Moshere, the Ronkushere, and 11 other allied tribes. The Magapal, the Ngas, the Bogom are all claiming descent from Borno. In the Ngas language, the name for head is Kla. In the Kanuri language is Kla. The name for leg in the Ngas language is Shi. In the Kanuri language is Shi. How are you? Aye is the same in Ngas and is the same in Kanuri. Some of the major dramatis personae in the episodes in Plateau are the Biroms. And the Biroms are claiming ancestry from Gobir. And if you take the picture of His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, and juxtapose it with that of His Royal Highness the Bongomjo, there is a remarkable resemblance, which shows that they are essentially the same people. I urge you, the people of Plateau, as a tribute to the last man standing, let us unite and face our challenges of poverty, insecurity, and destitution. We are all stakeholders in this project. We have to make peace, because there can never be development without peace, and there can never be peace without development. The proverbial Garden of Eden that Plateau is can generate billions in floriculture for the nation. There are certain crops that are unique to Plateau. We can grow avocados for export. We can expand the Jos Airport. We can grow flowers. We can even grow coffee. There is a Moishai coffee that is domiciled in Plateau. So, Your Excellencies, Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria is a great country. 1 out of every 4 black men is a Nigerian. And by 2050, Nigeria will be the 3rd most populous nation on earth. We will surpass the United States. Our population will hit 440 million people. And by the end of the century, when all of us here have become poor tenants in the home of the earthworms, Nigeria will be the most populous nation on earth. 1 out of every 2 black men will be a Nigerian. I am proud to call myself a Nigerian. I would rather be a small fish in a big ocean than be a big fish in a small ocean. His Eminence the Sultan of Sokoto has been narrating this story of the family of the Sultan sending gallons of fura every week to General Yakubu Gowon in Dodon Barracks. Because of the trust and confidence, General Gowon was willingly, without any suspicion. But now, the game is different. Suspicion smears our relationships, and it ought not to be. We are essentially one people tied to a common destiny. And lastly, permit me to pay tribute to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on a similar episode. When we were campaigning for him to emerge as the aspirant of the APC, we were going around the north. You know, we the people of Borno, unlike the Sokoto people, we are the best dressed northerners. So I got some Wagambali materials and caps for him to blend with the northern crowd. So it fitted him very well. So his aides were saying, please produce more. It fitted him. Barely 3 months when we were sworn into office, some of my people from Borno came to him and said, please stop wearing those Shetima clothes. He must have charmed them, and you are going to die, and he will become the president. Just barely 3 months, and to the eternal credit of the president. When I came back from China, where I represented him at the Bells and Roads Initiative conference, he said, sit down. Your people came to me and said, I should stop wearing those dresses you gave me. But he said their story did not add up, because when you gave me those dresses, I was an aspirant. I wasn't the candidate. Neither were you the vice presidential candidate. For 1 week, to prove to them that he is not pettish, he wore those dresses. These are some of the gimmicks that is taking place in power cycles in Nigeria nowadays. I want to thank you. Baba, Mona Alpari Dake, we are very, very proud of you. Keep on building bridges, and may you live long. May we witness your 100th birthday and 120th birthday celebration. Long live the Republic of Nigeria. Long live. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. It's always a delight. Can you please rise in his honor? What a quintessential speaker he is.